Hello, everyone. Welcome to our online Saturday chapter service. Tonight's going to run a little different than what we're used to. Dana, do you want to explain?
Yeah, so we have three groups of people that mean so much to us, and we are so excited to be able to be interviewing them this week. So mixing things up a little bit, we've been thinking about during quarantine how important it is to connect with those that we care about, and just be in constant communication with our friends and family, not to feel alone. So we just wanted to bring to you guys some of the people who mean a lot to us and see how they're finding joy in this season.
Yep, so we're going to hear from Taylor and Shayna in Pennsylvania, and Nathan all the way in Church of the Highlands, where I don't remember where that is off the top of my head, and Matt and Amanda, who run the Block Young Adults in Hillsong Montclair. So we're excited to hear from all of them. We had so much fun filming these, and we hope you guys are blessed by this. We love you guys.
Bye.
Enjoy. Hey guys, we are super excited to have another one of these interviews happening. We have two really close friends that we met in perhaps the weirdest way. And I think we went from strangers to very intimate friends very quickly. And so we'd love for you guys to hear from them, and we'll let them share a little bit about how we met. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves, Taylor, what you guys do, what church you're at, and what position you guys play in at your church.
Yeah, so my name's Taylor Boswell, and this is my lovely wife. Go ahead and say your name.
Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm the youth and young adult pastor at a church in the kind of greater Philadelphia area called Morning Star Fellowship. We go by M-Star. And so, yeah, that's what I do youth and young adults. And why don't you say what you do?
I'm in corporate America. I'm an account manager for an insurance company. So, yeah.
So that's what we do. And then in our church, we obviously serve students. And, when it comes to Sunday mornings, we help out and engage wherever we can, connecting with people, loving on people. That's kind of what we do.
Super cool. And then for the sake of the story, we met at Youth America, which was a leadership conference put out by Church of the Harvest. And I think it was God that placed us all at the same table, which was great. And we had a good time. And if I remember correctly, and I tend to forget, so help me out here. We didn't plan anything, but we ending up at the same pizza restaurant for dinner between the sessions. And then you and Thomas and Ivy were there too, and you guys motioned for us to come over, and we all started hanging out and talking. And then the idea from there was to go and grab coffee. And we hadn't rented a car. We were Ubering around, and I think it was you that you looked and you go, "Hey, do you guys want to jump in the trunk of our rented SUV?" And we were like, "Yes, let's do it." And so within knowing each other for a few hours, we were illegally in the back of the SUV.
We went to a Starbucks.
They trusted us. They trusted us to put them in the back of our SUV, not knowing who we really were. We could have taken them anywhere, and what would they have done?
It was the craziest thing. Like you couldn't even make up the story. So it's nuts.
I think even as we
There
were,
was like an old lady parked next to us as we were getting into the trunk, and she was really staring as we drove away.
Well, she was smoking, and I was trying to get my child in the car. He's only 9-10 months old, and I'm like, we're trying to get in the car.
It probably was really weird. There's a baby, a bunch of young adults, and then two people in the truck. So they're all happening.
Shoving you guys in. You guys were you guys are the closest that you probably have been. You guys were in tight quarters because we also had the stroller in the back too. And it was crazy.
and I'm a tall guy, so I was contorting my body. Can I be honest? Now in retrospect, the only thing going through my mind for the first 10 minutes of the drive was how are we going to explain this to our pastors if this goes wrong? And I'm thinking do our churches have funds for this? How do I take it off as an expense to my pastor? Hey man, I don't know. We were in the back of a car.
Oh dear God.
All of that to say, Youth America was great, and everyone should go if they have the chance to go. And I think the coolest thing was figuring out that we only live an hour and a half away from each other, which is crazy. And I think it's cool that we feel the friendships we formed there are lifetime friendships. And I know Taylor, you and I will text or voice memo back and forth. But the cool thing is I feel it's a sort of friendship where we don't have to talk every day, but whenever we pick up, it's just where we left off. And it never feels like there's a growing distance. And so I know we're looking forward to Youth America this year, and we are ready to engage in more borderline illegal activities with you guys. Because it's all for sermon illustrations at the end of the day. But, Amen. But getting into the actual flow of things, we want to know, how's quarantine been for you guys? What have you guys been up to? Oh, Lord. Oh, my gosh. I have illegal Adobe software, so the pop-up comes up every once in a while, so I'm just going to be honest.
I'm not sure if that'll be.
But how's quarantine been for you guys? What have you guys been up to, and how's it like to be working from home? Well, are you guys working from home?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been really, really good, honestly. It's interesting for me because I am never really been a homebody. I mean, I'm always going. And so actually being home I've talked to a lot of people where they've been like, I hate this. Like, I'm actually loving it. Like, it's been actually really good. And, you know, we both work from home right now. And, you know, I think for a lot of people, there's been some struggle with, you know, not having like childcare. But for us, it's pretty awesome because my in-laws, her parents live 20 feet from us. We have a pretty big piece of property. And so they live in a separate house right next to us. So we just take Jack over, our kid, 8 o'clock in the morning. We go back and pick him up at about 4:30. So we're able to work together, be home together, make coffee. We make lunch. It's actually really been a blessing in this time. I don't know about if you have anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the opposite of Taylor, and I am a homebody, so I love it. I'm like, work from home every single day. Like, this is my dream come true. And even more so that my mom watches my son next door. It just makes work a lot easier because he's a mama's boy and he's on me all the time. So if we didn't have that, it would be a lot more difficult. And I know other friends are struggling in that area with having their kids home with no childcare and trying to work, but we are extremely blessed with the setup. So
So great.
Yeah, and then Shayna, if I can ask, because I think it's good that I think we're both in like very similar positions. We're like Taylor and I are pastors at churches, and then both you and Diana are working in the corporate world, and obviously we do ministry as marriages. But I've come to learn that my wife is a corporate person, and I had no idea until we worked from home. You know, she's using terms I've never heard before.
He has to like listen to me as I'm like calling into meetings, and he's like,
she's like, oh, let's touch base. Let's circle back. And I'm like, who the heck did I marry? But we have a lot of young adults who are also working from home. And so I'm curious for you, and even for you, and me and Taylor will step off to the side for a moment. How do you have like a healthy workflow at home doing your accounts managing job while not being in your usual office? Like, what are some practical things that you do to focus and be able to get your job done from home?
Well, shout out to my company, MetLife. They actually have a really good setup where every week we have weekly huddles. So now that I'm an account manager, I just stepped into this position a couple months ago. I meet with what we call our natural work team once a week. So it's on Wednesdays at 10:30, and we all call in and we go over like what our problem areas are, what customers are experiencing. I have my sales rep on there. So everybody gets to touch base on that regular basis, regardless of whether we're in the office or working from home. So we already have that regular communication with each other. So it's just continuing that. And then, I think the only difficult part is our house is a little awkward right now where we don't have a set office space. So we're both working in the kitchen. And then if I need to take a call because he's on a call or vice versa, I just go up in Jack's room and I like sit up there. But the thing about it is everybody's working from home. So I've had to call brokers, I've had to call customers, and they're all in the same exact situation. So they totally understand. And I think it just makes for a kinder world in corporate America because before, if you heard a baby cry or a dog barking or something like that, that was like the end of the world for your meeting. But now everybody's in the same exact situation, so nobody cares. So I'm hoping it'll be a nice change for corporate America going forward.
Yeah, like you nailed it with the change of it, because it is so different. Where I was even listening to a podcast this week that is usually a super professional podcast, and they're currently recording from home, and you hear fire trucks in the background, and and I'm like, it's just so normal that I'm not even listening and thinking, oh man, that's bad production. It's just, no, that's normal for all of us. We're all sitting at home, we're all recording, we all have for us, like we live on a busy street, there's always an ambulance going down.
Always. Fire trucks, everything.
But it's just changing the way we're all working and changing the way that I guess we're all interacting with one another. And we'll circle back in corporate jargon to that conversation in a few. But in quarantine, are there any hobbies you guys have been developing or anything you've been doing to stay healthy during this time? I know, Taylor, you guys have been going on a journey with, I don't know if you're full vegan now or like really close to being full vegan, but I mean, you've pushed me to try some new things too. And you have your Boswell Strong page if you guys want to share about what that's all about.
Yeah. So I guess it kind of started back in December. I'm not going to talk long about it, but my brother's been vegan for over a year now, and he's been like pushing me to like, you need to do this, try this. And I'm like, bro, just back off of me, dude. Like, I'm going to eat what I want to eat. Like, I'm not going to do what you do. And so he told me to watch a documentary. I watched it. It's called The Game Changers. And after watching it, I like literally next day was like, I have to do this. And so we've been on a journey now for a little over 4 months, going into our 5th month of being really plant-based. Vegan's a little bit different, where it's a real lifestyle of animal rights. And so it's not for us that it's just about how healthy like eating plants is. And so we started a health journey. We've lost quite a bit of weight from doing this, and still getting in all of our macronutrients, every bit of protein, carbs, fat, and it's been really really awesome. So we started this Boswell Strong to really just honestly just be encouraging to people, and encourage people to like reach goals and go after things. And so during the season of COVID-19, we've been able to really kind of focus in on that, kind of having like a social media strategy. And how we're posting and how we're connecting with people. And it's been a really, really good journey. So
yeah,
I don't know if there's any other questions to that one, but yeah, I mean, we love it. So, I mean, being plant-based has been the best decision for us in our health. So, I mean, I had a pretty bad knee from running, and since eating plant-based, I haven't had any knee pain.
Wow.
I guess in the last 5 months, 4 or 5 months now. So it's been pretty awesome.
Oh, it's so tempting. Like I really want to, but I'm from Argentina, and that like I think we're number 1 or 2 meat exporter in the world. Like if I tell my family, I'm gonna have to be okay with never being part of the family again. Like it's a big deal. But like when you say like the health benefits of like your knee not hurting, that stuff blows me away, because it's not like any medication or anything. You're just changing the way you're eating, and your body just feels better. And I think that's one of those things that I've been watching how it correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like there's always like these church cycles that happen, right? And I think one of the cool shifts in the cycle has been like people are becoming more conscious about taking care of their bodies physically. And so hearing and seeing this, I think is super cool, because it is part of maybe I think like a spiritual walk that we don't always make a priority, but being healthy and being aware of what you're putting into your body really evidently makes changes,
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that this is what really kind of shifted my perspective was that, and I'm not going to try to like convict anybody, but really what helped me notice was like, when you eat plants, you're eating life, but when you're eating meat, you're eating death. And I was like, I don't want to put death in my body. Like I want to put good, healthy, sorry, but I want to put good things into my body. Like, I mean, like if it's true, you are what you eat. Don't end the call now, okay? But like if it's true, you are what you eat. Like I want to be eating good things that are going to benefit me. And I mean, like in the whole journey so far, I think I've lost maybe like 10 pounds when COVID-19, maybe 10 to 12 pounds when COVID-19 hit. I gained like 8 pounds because I'm just like, hey, Oreos are vegan. Like, hey, this is so good. Like, and I'm just like, and I mean, I'm bored, like bored in the house, bored. Not going to go into it anymore. But like, all I wanted to do was eat. And like, I was eating some really bad stuff. And so it was just about almost 21 days ago now, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, I need to eat healthier. And then as of this week, I've been like, every bit of food has been measured. I'm meal prepping, and I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been good.
That was so convicting, though, like in a good way.
I know.
When you
I feel
said
like I need
that,
to write that on this wall somewhere.
I'm gonna go throw out all the meat in my freezer now, or just eat it all tonight and be like one final.
You're gonna wake up dead.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But that was good. That was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. When you were like, "Oh, I don't want to be too convicting," I go, "How's he gonna convict us on this?" And then you said the words, and I go, "My God, that's a sermon. That's a sermon there. Just back it up biblically, and you're good." You know what I mean? Yeah. So, in both ministry, and I would say the conversation was even touched upon about even in the corporate world. I guess the questions that we've been having with people is, what are some things that we just can't go back to after this when we go back to a post-quarantine world? Both in, I guess, the corporate world, how we work, what are some changes that all of us have to make or you think will be changed because we've been doing this in quarantine and it's working? And then even ministry-wise, what are some changes in how we do youth and young adult ministry that you guys think are going to have to stay once we go back to a world where we can meet together in person?
You want to go first or you want me to go? So I was talking to a really good friend of mine. He's from New York. His name's Cody Spencer. Shout out Cody. And one of the things that we had talked about is just like, that's kind of been my process right now. Like, honestly, in the last week, I've just been thinking like what does, like, from this point on, what changes? Like, what are we going to do to, like, because I don't think that there's like, I think we're all expecting like we're going to go back to a place of normalcy. I mean, if you remember, like, one of the biggest things that happened, I know there's a lot of young adults here, like 2001, I mean, 9/11 happened, and that literally changed everything.
Yeah.
And so I see the same thing happening. I think this is going to change how we do a lot of things. And I think when I think about ministry, like I was just talking to one of my boys, and he was talking about like, man, this is the time now where like we create an online platform to where no matter what, like if it's youth ministry and a kid misses the bus or misses his ride, can't get there because of basketball practice, like, don't worry, bro. Like, we got you. Join online. And then even creating a platform where like, hey, we know that you're going to miss small groups. Hey, we're going to do online small groups too. We actually have like, we're talking about running, like having a pastor or a leader even like run the online chat so that way they can join no matter where they are. It's a young adult ministry. It's the same thing. Like, man, somebody gets like, has to go into work, or, they have to stay late because of work, or something happens to their car. Like, these are consistent things that happen to people. And it's like, don't worry, no matter where you are, we're still going to allow you to get there. I think one of the coolest things is like, Mike Todd. I love listening to Mike Todd. I was listening to him this morning, and he was doing a call with Chad Veach, and it was like, he basically told his team, was like, hey, look, we're starting another campus. And they're like, that's awesome. Like, where's this campus going to be at? He's like, online. And everybody's like, huh? And he's talking about like, we need to, like, this was months ago, like, we need to create the best experience online, so that no matter what, if it's somebody in Tulsa, outside of Tulsa, that they can be fed and be encouraged. And I think that's the same thing, because I mean, like, yeah, we live in a kind of a little rural area, place of Pennsylvania outside of Philly, but like, no matter what, there's like, we have people that travel like an hour just to come to our youth service or even our church services. And so we want to be able to create a place where, hey, you can't make it, don't worry. Like, we want you to be connected. So I think that's kind of like, that's been an area of a focus for us in ministry.
So for me, what I'm kind of hoping that we implement going forward, that we can't go back to pre-COVID, is a healthier work-life church balance. Because I feel like, like I said, with the kind of world in corporate America, with giving more grace when people are working from home, I know I live an hour and 15 minutes one way from my work office. So that's 2.5 hours on a good normal traffic day to get to and from work that I'm missing being with my family. And then if we've got church events at night, like, our schedule is always so packed all the time. So I'm hoping that people start slowing down. And, I don't want to say like we shouldn't have as many events and whatnot, but I do feel like there's got to be a better balance where people are spending more time at home, being with family, and building those relationships, and making that priority and not just the filler when nothing else is available.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the couples we spoke to, they were saying how it's interesting because, right, we're getting to a point where we're realizing that, we can't go to our jobs. Some of us may have lost our jobs or might have gone furloughed. And it feels like we're realizing like the priority really is our family and our friends and stuff like that. And it's so interesting because, we live in America that is a very fast-paced, country where we work. And now to be in a position where you can't work, it's like, I'm sure it's must be eye-opening to a lot of us. Surely it's been eye-opening to me to be able to see that we can both work from home and she's getting stuff done and I'm getting stuff done and the world's still going forward, which is crazy, And we've been in a society that for so long it's been like you have to put in 50 or 60 hours a week in order to be successful. And now people are still being successful in a healthy way, which is crazy. So like, personally, I hope we don't go back to those crazy work weeks and those crazy hours.
Yeah, and for me, I think that was one of the biggest struggles when I became a mom is I just brought this beautiful baby boy into the world and I want to spend all my time with him, but I also have a career that I enjoy and that I get a lot of life from. So how do I marry the two and still serve and be a part of my church? And not like for a kid, kids are just, they have their emotions. They have their good days. They have their bad days. Teeth are coming in, whatever is going on. And I don't want to put so much onto our schedule that my child is being overwhelmed because of some obligation that we have. Yeah. And so I feel like this is it's so much easier for our kid who can just be at home and there's not all these obligations that we have to go to, that are being forced in a car to go here, to go there, to do this and that and behave and be quiet. So I like that.
Yeah, that's I think even for like ministry, I do wonder, we always put on so many events and so many services and so many things in person. I wonder if we're going to go and it'll be like, hey, you know what? We're just going to meet online a few times in the month and stuff just to keep people. And that's such a cool thing now too, because you guys do both youth and young adults, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we actually are supposed to launch our young adult ministry. Like we had been planning, preparing, and we cut our young adult small group to basically launch the 2 weeks before Easter. And then it was like, oh, what a drag. But we still been connecting with a lot of young adults and even in this time. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. I think about like all the churches who had things planned to roll out over the next few weeks and we're all just like, so what do we do? Yeah. We were building props for Easter, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, all right, we have all these crosses now. Like, what's the next step? Like, if we do the church barbecue, we'll put the crosses up. I don't know.
We have a cross in our backyard. You can just bring it here.
Yeah, bring them over here.
We tried to be historically accurate, so they're pretty big crosses. But we'll just bring them right over. We can just plant them in your back.
Ours is like 8 feet. Feet tall.
Yeah, it's about 8-9 feet tall. So.
Oh wow. I'm gonna. We live in an apartment, so we don't have like a yard or anything. But I'm gonna find a way to put a cross in our in our hallway for the neighbors to really know that we're Christians. It would not.
Perfect.
Do you want to ask the last question as we begin to close down?
Yeah. Okay. So. Overall in this season, obviously it's been different for everybody. Like some people, like you mentioned, are having a really good time and adjusting really well to being home. And despite the limitations that we might have in our world right now, it's been like nice family time. But obviously other people have been having a lot of difficulty coping with feeling isolated or not having community right now. So for you two, how have you guys been finding joy in this season?
Well, I'll be honest, like as great as our setup is, just to be a little vulnerable. I feel like my quiet time with God has been a lot harder to have because I'm working from home and then my kid's here and we're trying to eat healthy and work out. So it's like all these things just like stack up into your day. And even though we're home all the time, I don't have a place to like go and retreat to. So it's just like that constant struggle of like, I know I should be spending time with the Lord and using this time. Like I have the most amount of time now and I'm still struggling with it. You know, what's wrong with me? So I mean, even me as a pastor's wife, that's like a big struggle. So just trying to give myself grace and do what I can and be present with my family at the same time. But like talking to the Lord throughout the day instead of just like saying like, oh, I need to dedicate this half hour, but making it a continual prayer throughout the day. Like, okay, Lord, like, speak to me here. I'm struggling with this, like, and just asking the Lord to invade our house with his peace and his presence.
Yeah. So I think what, like, probably one of the things that brings me joy the most is just being with my wife. So like, I mean, just even working at our dining room table and working and eating lunch together, just those little moments. You know, we typically like really try to do a date night, like where it's just the two of us once a month. And I made sure that like, I'm not going to drop the ball on this. Like I'm going to be a man of my word. And so we have a really like, so we have a very interesting house that probably nobody, I don't know, maybe somebody here that is going to watch like is, you know, has this, but at our house, we have 13 acres. We have 2 homes on it, and we also have a train caboose, which is really weird. The person that we bought the house from really loved trains, and so I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make dinner, and I'm gonna set up a table and chairs, and we're gonna do a date night. And you know, I had flowers. I made pasta. I made this big spread. Like, I mean, we had appetizer, we had dessert, and we spent like maybe 2 hours in the train, and we just had this amazing dinner, just the two of us, candlelit too. And
music
it was
going. We put on like our wedding song and we danced in the train. It was cute.
So, and like, let me tell you something. I am not that kind of guy. Like I'm, you know, like, people are probably like, oh my gosh, like he's, you know, like he probably does this stuff all the time. I really don't, but I did want to make this season of like us being in this, like I wanted to really make it special. And so that's been like, I think that's like, Shayna brings me the most joy, just being honest. Like she brings me the absolute most joy of anything. And so like being able to have this time with her is amazing. If you keep hearing like little steps, it's my dog wanting to go outside, and even being home with my dog, like that's great. Being like, you know, we've taken moments of like turning on the TV and I don't know what happened, but Jack loves to sing. Our little kid, he's like a year and 2 months now, 3 months. And like, so we've been putting on like Bethel Kids Worship and I'll just do dances to the songs. And he loves it. He tries to sing along. And so like those moments bring me joy. And then even the fitness stuff and the health stuff and working out, like I'm still working out. I kind of have like some dumbbells hiding from Jack. I've got resistance bands and I'm still working out. I'm not in the gym. Like I had a routine and my routine has been like, my normal routine has been shot. But like, I feel like I still got to create a routine. And when I create a routine, it creates joy because like, the things that I used to do, like they've all been shut down, but now I have other things that like I just have to make, like I have to make something, I have to make a routine. So that way I'm continuing and I'm creating joy, but also like that kind of stuff like motivates me. When I have a routine, it motivates me to do more. And so like, I mean, I've been filling up, like I thought like in the beginning, I was like, man, this is like everything that I was doing. It's all gone. And I guess like I'm going to have plenty of free time. I'm just going to be able to watch Netflix all day and binge watch Tiger King 3 times over. But I've realized like, holy cow, like I've been filling up my time with so many new things and routines. Like there may not be like brand new hobbies. Like but I'm doing stuff in it and I'm loving the season. So all these little things are absolutely bringing me joy.
Wow. Yeah. No, and it's so encouraging because it's true. Like we do have the ability to still take charge of what we can take charge of and create routine and balance in our lives during the season. And again, every person's situation is so different, but the one thing we can do is make sure that regardless of what we've been handed, we have a way to ask God to help us find balance and routine in our lives. And I think my prayer really is that all of us come out of this better in some way, either definitely healthier in all senses, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but even like we come out of this like more consistently, more consistent people, if that makes sense. Like you said, with the routines and with the abilities to make sure that we are prioritizing our family and putting things in the right place. And I don't know, I'm excited. I'm very hopeful about the life after this.
Yeah, I actually learned this from you, man. So I just want to give props to you. I think you were doing a live call with your pastor or somebody. I know there's somebody you were doing a live call with. And like you just talked about, like in this season, the term, I don't have enough time, like that should not ever come out of our mouths because of like, right now, we all have time. Like, so the things that you say that you don't have time for, like, I don't have time to read a book. I don't have time to work on my social media game. I don't have time to start a YouTube. Like, all that stuff is like, yo, like, kiss that goodbye. That should not even come out of your mouth because this is the time where it's like, pick up something and do something new. And like, I really believe that, like, everybody that's watching right now, I want you to know that you were made for this season. Like, if you're not dead, then God's not done with you. There's a plan and a purpose on your life. And like God made you for such a time as COVID-19 and that you were not meant to just survive, but you're meant to thrive. And so it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I know that the feelings sometimes come where it's like, oh, like, I just can't do this anymore. No, you can because you were made for it. And it's like, I just got to do things to continue to motivate me to get through to the other side. Like, I mean, if the disciples got through the storm in the boat and Jesus was there, I can get through the storm right now because if Jesus did it for them, he's going to do it for us too.
Yeah. Amen. No, that's good, man. I got like little goosebumps listening because it's true. And I know we've been having so many conversations with people, and I'm sure you guys have too, where it's like, honestly, right? Like it's been a hard season for all of us. Like even in the best case for those of us who are still able to work and stuff, like it still takes a toll mentally, spiritually, and it's just, you're right. We are going to get through this. God is still with us in this, and we're going to come out of this victorious, which is exciting. Y'all, I'm fired up. I'm about to go do push-ups or something. I don't know. I'm going to do 10 of them, but I'll give them to the excellent for God. You know what I mean? Just perfect form.
Come on, let's go.
Guys, thank you so much for taking this time with us, cutting some time out of your day. We appreciate it. And I know that our young adults and the youth that are watching are going to be super blessed by this. And so we love you guys. Thank you guys for everything. And we look up to you guys, and we can't wait to hang out again soon.
Bro, we love y'all so much. And I can't wait to see you guys again. And man, even make it out to New Jersey and come see what you guys are doing. Chapter, right? Is it chapter?
Chapter.
Come on.
Dude,
love
let's
it.
do it.
All right, come on.
I'm going to cut off the recording, and then we will just chat for a few more moments. But thank you again officially. We love you guys, and then we will see you soon. Hey guys, we have another interview for you guys tonight. I'm speaking with a friend of mine named Nathan. We met at Youth America Leadership Conference this past year, and I honest to God don't even remember how we met, but we've kept in pretty good contact back and forth since, and so many similarities, I think, in our life and how we are as people and as creative people. And so we're excited to be able to give him an opportunity to share about what he's been doing during quarantine, how he's been staying sane and healthy, and how he's getting through college during this season. So Nathan, thank you so much for joining us for this.
Bro, I'm so pumped. This is going to be so good.
I'm pumped as well. Can you help me though? How did we meet? I vaguely remember like the moment, but I don't remember exactly what happened.
That's the thing. It was a moment. I literally was in line looking at the merch at Youth America. So I was in line talking, I think you passed by and I was like, those are some dope shoes. You were like, thanks, man. And that's it. And the rest is history. There was no like in-depth conversation. I just literally complimented your shoes and then we got connected.
It's funny because like for anyone who hasn't gone to Youth America, and everyone should go to Youth America, I feel like that's the whole conference is just like, dude, nice shoes. Hey, dude, nice shirt. Bro, I love your jacket. And that's like for 3 days, that's just how you meet
Literally
people.
it.
Literally every friendship is built.
Youth pastors bringing out the fits, the legendary fits.
Bro,
It's like Vogue, but not.
It feels like
Vogue plus Jesus.
It feels like a junior preachers and sneakers. Like that's what it feels like being at that conference.
Dude, if you ever need a Yeezy plug, just walk into Youth America Leadership Conference and you're good.
Just ask, someone will have a plug.
Literally just yell, who's the plug?
Yo, Nathan, so what have you been up to during quarantine? What are you currently up to? I know you're in school. If you want to share what you're in school for and just share how college has been for you in this season, I'd love to just hear what that's been like.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually go to college at Church of the Highlands. And so Church of the Highlands is a phenomenal church. I don't remember what the statistic is. I think it's like the 3rd or 4th largest church in the nation. But I love it because although it's a huge church, it feels like a very small church just because the leadership's just so intentional about seeking out community, creating pockets of culture that doesn't exclude people, but really includes people. But yeah, bro, I was in Birmingham going to college, literally, I think, to be walking out my purpose in the college, doing the ministry, serving whatever capacity that really tied into my calling. And so I was in the place where my purpose was, and I was definitely at peace with it. And not to name any names, coronavirus, didn't bother to FaceTime me, didn't bother to Zoom me, didn't bother to text me. I went to my apartment, packed up all of my things, and put them on my doorstep. And now I'm back in Arkansas for the rest of the semester doing classes online. And so, man, quarantine started off really abruptly.
Super abruptly. It was like that. It was one day it's not that big of a deal. And then it was, we're quarantined for the foreseeable future.
Bro, one of my senior pastors literally preached a message that was like really encouraging. It was like, coronavirus, we're going to take it by storm. It's nothing. And like the next like week we were all back inside and we were like, oh, okay, well, we were joking about it. It's like, yeah, coronavirus. And it was like, wait, no, actually, coronavirus.
We take that back. We take the whole sermon back.
Actually, yeah, delete that from the archive. Not a thing anymore.
How have you managed to stay consistent with schoolwork, though, during this time? Because, like, we joked about it before we were talking. You have, like, Netflix available at all times. You have so many things you can do to lose track of time. How do you stay on top of your work?
Bro, something that changed my life first semester. So you get into college. I don't know how many of you are freshmen watching. You get into college, and it's like, I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. I can eat cereal when I want. I can wear my pajamas when I want. I can do whatever. And so going into my freshman year, I was like, okay, I have all of this time. And I mean, we did services. We had schooling in class. So a lot of our schedule was kind of planned out, but there was still a lot of time that was unaccounted for. The biggest thing, I mean, the absolute biggest tool that I've been using during quarantine, but even just in college, has been an online planner. There's an app called Fantastical, and it's like it's like Pokemon. When a Pokemon evolves, it's like iCloud calendar, but if you gave it a special candy and it evolved, that's Fantastical. And it's the best calendar app. I'm so serious. And so I've literally, I sat under a teaching at Highlands, and the pastor was talking about, we really believe that us, like as humans, we have a body, we have a soul, and we have a spirit. So it's mind, will, emotion. And a lot of our issues in life really is just a mismanagement or an unacknowledgement of areas in our life that we're not putting enough care into.
Sure.
So whether that's physical, emotional, intellectual, leisure, like having fun, that's a crazy concept, scheduling fun. But I've used Fantastical, and during this time, I've put in 3 hours in my schedule. I'm going to do homework for 3 hours. Then after that, I notice I haven't had a lot of leisure. So I'm going to throw in a leisure activity. Or I feel a call in my life to be a communicator and to preach and teach the word. So I'm going to take an hour out of my schedule, throw it in my planner, and I'm going to spend an hour reading a book on communication.
Yeah.
And so the big idea here is I'm staying sane because I'm being intentional about how I'm using my time.
Yep.
And what's great about it is I'm still watching Netflix. I'm still chilling, but I'm doing it within the time frame where I'm not just wasting 8-9 hours binging Community because I can. But I'm actually taking back the time because if you plan to fail, you fail to plan.
Sure.
And so I want to make sure that I'm using my time, especially during quarantine, to do the things that I need to get done, but also do the things that I know I've always wanted to do. And now I finally have time to do it.
Yeah. And especially like we cannot control what's happening outside, but we can control what's happening within our home and our apartments and the time that we have, which is good. You know, I think even like you said, the leisure thing was great because it's just because we have all this free time does not mean that 100% of that free time has to be dedicated to work or being productive. We do need to take time to rest and just enjoy and to have fun. And I think you nailed it with the whole leisure idea because maybe for some of us, it's I have to be doing my work. I have to be doing my homework. I have to do a productive hobby. I have to work out. I have to. And then you get to the end of the day and you're exhausted. And I feel like this is the worst time to be exhausted. Because when we go back to life post-quarantine and we're actually at a schedule where we have to commute and go to place and meet in person and do all those things, that's when the exhaustion really does hit. So I do think this is like a nice season of being able to develop a routine, but have it be just like you said, controlled and also surrounded by leisure, surrounded by rest, surrounded by moments where we just get to better ourselves. And it doesn't have to be just schoolwork the whole day, or on the opposite end, it doesn't have to be Netflix for 9 hours a day.
No, it definitely doesn't. Although it's tempting.
Dude.
It's like, dude, Netflix hangover is a real thing.
I get that. And man, I don't know your theological beliefs, so forgive me if I offend you, but I just started watching Harry Potter with my wife for the first time last week.
Gosh.
And so I know.
How dare you?
Witches and wizards, so I apologize. But dude, we'll start it every night at like 8 or 9 or 10. Those movies are not hour-long movies. Those are 2.5-hour movies. So we go to bed at 1:30 every morning. We wake up exhausted, But it's real. And our thing is like we don't feel guilty about it because we're not going to get to do this later on. So we're just enjoying the season of being able to watch.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
My pastor, Pastor Chris, we had a small Zoom call. That dude's so intelligent. Oh my! It's like he speaks, and I'm like, wow, you're right. It's like every word. It's just like, how are you so smart? But he said this, and I thought it was killer. So there is such a thing as a miracle morning.
Sure.
And the reality is how you start your day is how the rest of your day is going to go. I mean,
for sure.
Seriously. And during quarantine, man, the biggest thing, and like seriously the biggest thing that I've been trying to do, is Sabbathing. I'm trying to take a Sabbath, and mine's Saturday. And so Saturday I unplug everything, which is hard, but I unplug all of my electronics, TV, whatever, and I just take time on a Saturday to read books leisurely, play disc golf. Arkansas has a lot of mountains, so I'll go rock climbing or something.
Wow.
I just enjoy the things I love to do and give worship to God. Saturday's been crucial, but another part of that, because I'm trying to be disciplined, I'll only sleep in on Saturday.
Yeah,
and
smart.
throughout the week, if I wake up at 6 a.m. and go to bed responsibly at like 10 or 11, man, if I can wake up at 6, get a workout in, get some alone time in, my day is significantly better. Like
100%.
how you start your day is how you're going to finish the rest of your day. And we can get on schedule. And again, you don't have to use a digital planner like Fantastical. You can buy a $5 planner on Amazon or whatever and just stay consistent in managing your time. Yeah. It changes the game.
Dude, for sure. And I think I think about things very practically. So the way in my head I see it is, let's say someone like me wakes up, right, and heads to church. Let's say I head to church at 9 a.m., right? Nowadays, since I'm not heading to church, I'll still start my workday at 9 a.m., but I can choose to wake up at the same time I used to wake up, And whatever would have been my commute or whatever would have been my get ready time can now be positioned as time with God in the morning.
Yeah,
and so it's crazy even for like students or anyone who's working. Like if you had a 20-minute commute, you can have a 20-minute commute with the Lord in your bedroom. Just wake up the same time you used to wake up at. I think what's going to be hard for a lot of us, listen, I think what's going to be hard for a lot of us is like
That's next level.
if we fall, and me and my wife have been talking about it, if we fall into the habit of like sleeping in before work, you know, and like let's say we all start at 9, if we start waking up at 8:45 to get to work at 9 from our home, man, when we can go back to work, we're going to struggle to get back to waking up early. So it's like trying to take hold of those things and not completely lose ourselves in quarantine either, to where now we go back to a normal post-quarantine world. And now it's like, oh, I'm late to work because I can't wake up, or I'm late to work because I lost my train of, I lost my routine in the mornings and stuff. And so I think having a steady routine is super good and super useful. And I'm glad you said that. I'm going to transition to this next point because I think this will be fun. You do ministry at Church of the Highlands, correct?
I mean, you could say that. I mean, yeah.
So with you doing ministry at Church of the Highlands, my question is this: with the way we're doing ministry today during quarantine, what are certain parts of ministry that you think we cannot lose when we go back to being able to meet in person? So what aspects of quarantine church are essential and important, and do you think they're going to play a role when we are able to meet again in person?
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question, because the biggest thing that the church is struggling with, and I think humanity is struggling with, is not being able to be in person.
Yeah.
Like that's the worst. And so what's crazy is if you look at statistics, Church of the Highlands, that's kind of my reference point, right? But Church of the Highlands, our last Easter service had more people in attendance than they ever have in the past 5 years.
Wow.
And 10,000 people texted B to being saved, like accepting Jesus into their hearts and wanting to follow him. Like, what? So more people through the vehicle of online streaming and platforms are receiving the gospel and responding to the gospel. Yeah. And if that's the case, online platforming, and I think here's the crazy part, right? Like even at Youth America Leadership last year, I sat under a teaching guys named Sean Cannell, media guru. If any of you are interested in social media stuff, he's the man. Yeah. But he said something that I thought was pretty incredible. Not knowing how to use technology in the 21st century is like saying you want to be a missionary going to Spain but never learning Spanish.
Yeah.
And so the church has been kind of forced in this season to know how to use technology. We cannot afford, when this whole thing's said and done, to stay behind the way we were before.
Yeah, correct.
Like we have so much more reach because we realized, okay, where are people always? Mike Todd's been preaching this for like 3 years now. They're online. Post it online. Like people are still on Facebook. People are still on Instagram. They're going to stay on Instagram.
For sure.
So how are we as a body? Like I'm not very social. Like I hate saying this. I need to get better, and I'm trying to during quarantine. I don't really know all the ins and outs of social media, but I need to, because I can't afford to go into youth ministry not understanding the times.
Sure.
And resulting in myself being ineffective in outreach.
Yeah.
So the church can't afford to stay behind the times. Kanye West in his conversion, right? Like the one thing Kanye said out the gate was, okay, what happened between the 16th century and the 21st century? Because if you look at the 16th century, Christianity had the best art.
Yeah.
It had the best influential leadership.
Yep.
Had the best ideas, the best thinkers. So what's the gap? And I think the gap really has been the church has allowed itself in exclusivity, in the out-group, in-group mentality, and the unwillingness to trade tradition for effectiveness.
Yeah.
We can't afford to not be relevant. We can't afford not to know the times. And if we can take any note from the prophet Kanye, like we gotta know the times, and we have to realize that like the church has to be the leader in these things.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just it's not just within the four walls of the building. No, we're called to go out in all the world, like business, marketplace, a coffee shop, like we have to own our spheres of influence.
Yeah.
That's how the name of Jesus is going to be glorified, even in the places that are unruly and like you wouldn't think would be reached.
Yeah, no, and you're right, man. And I think it's cool. I saw one thing and it made me think just about what you're saying, how like the church always was a pivotal force in history. And I do think we're getting back to that place now with online, which is nuts. There was a post in this big media church group chat I'm at on Facebook, like 25,000 members, something unreal. And they were saying like the first Sunday when everyone was streaming, they're like, dude, YouTube keeps coming down, Facebook keeps going down, what's going on? And one guy goes, yeah, no one expected every single church in the world to jump on streaming platform at the same time. And it's true because all these companies now have to upgrade the way they did it, because they're like, every Sunday, we're going to get thousands of churches live streaming and thousands or millions of viewers. And the church, whether we realize it or not, we just changed the way YouTube and Facebook and those people look at streaming, because now they're going every Sunday, every single Sunday. We have to account for millions of streams. How do we keep our websites healthy? Change the game, And so it's, we can't go back. We are the single-handedly the biggest driving force in the world. And I think if the whole church agrees on that, we can make change in how we push forward creativity and stuff like that.
And Pastor Rich, he said something I thought was really ingenious. Man, all throughout time, if you look at the Great Depression, wars, whatever, great limitation always produces great innovation.
Yeah.
And this time, more than any time in history, man, the church is shining bright. And it's an opportunity for us in the face of the public to create new things, new ways, bigger ideas to reach people that aren't just so systematic of like church services or events. It's like, no, actually, how can we get all these meals to all these people in an innovative way that's most effective? Like, dude, I mean, man, God really is working goodness out of this whole Corona situation, and we're going to come out better on the other side. I believe it.
For sure. I have no doubt that we're going to be stronger as a whole church. And I think even it's cool because even conversations like this, that wouldn't normally happen, not because we don't talk, but it's because, we're all running and busy. We can now be like, hey, let's Zoom for an hour and just talk about life, which is like needed. And like, we should be doing this more, which we will be doing more of, Nathan, because I love you. Anyways, I had to throw that in there. So final question, I'll let you close it down with this. How are you as an individual choosing to find joy in this season?
Yeah. No, so bro, it is so easy. I'm an extrovert, guilty as charged, right? Haven't seen a human. I've been to a coffee shop, walked in, got curbside. I ordered Chili's, and you walk in and it's like, oh, what's up? All right, bye. Like no substantial conversation whatsoever. I miss people. Cat's out of the bag. I'm a simple man. I like simple things. I like being able to go into a coffee shop and sit down. Actually, that's something I enjoy. I like being able to have conversations with people more than 3 feet from each other. Not 6 feet, 3 feet from each other. That's not too much to ask for, right?
No.
And quarantine has shut me behind closed doors. Mandated quarantine has shut me behind closed doors. And it's honestly, bro, it's made me more than any time in my life, I think, look inward. When you're by yourself, you lead yourself. You're the only person you're responsible for in quarantine. And it's scary because if you haven't taken time to reflect and you haven't had the best habits and you haven't built the best relationships, you learn very quickly the disciplines you have and haven't had. Yeah. So for me, bro, joy has been a constant pursuing of God's presence. Man, like, love Netflix, love FaceTiming friends, love talking to family. Have had a lot of that this week. Sure. I'm being honest, there comes a point where conversations like this, Netflix, like community can only give me so much laughter. Yeah. And I think sometimes we as a society equate a smile or a laugh to joy. Yeah. But joy isn't circumstantial. Correct. And it really is only found in the presence of God. Yeah. And I can say that because I've experienced happiness and I've experienced joy. And there have been times where I've watched a bunch of Netflix. I've been out with friends pre-quarantine. Come on, somebody. And I've been on a mountain hanging out with friends, and I'll go home still feeling empty inside. Like it wasn't fulfilled. But man, the Bible has so much to say about when Jesus shows up into a situation. When you invite Jesus behind your closed doors during quarantine. John 20:19 through 23, the disciples are literally, like, you can read it, literally have locked their doors, are hiding behind closed doors in a room, and they have no peace. They're afraid of what's going on in the environment, the political world, like the news of that day, and it's all bad. The Jewish leaders are looking for them. They want to kill them. So the disciples are at this point, their joy meter's like it's gone. But when Jesus shows up, he does three things. Jesus shows up in the midst of their quarantine. Right? So regardless of like Peter was there. Peter denied Jesus. Yeah. Regardless of Peter's denial, regardless of the disciples being in unbelief, like no one believed Jesus actually was who he says he was. Like all the disciples were like, what do we do now? He evidently wasn't who he says he was, right? They had unbelief. So even in their unbelief and in their denial, Jesus still showed up. And when he gave his presence, the first thing that Jesus does is speak peace. So for me, it's, okay, am I lacking peace? Because I'm concerned about student loans. Yeah. I'm concerned about whether or not I'm going to have a job when I get out of this thing. Like, I'm concerned because going back to college, it's not going to look the same. Yeah. Like, okay, if I don't have peace, Jesus wants to give me peace. It's the first thing he does when he shows up with the disciples in a room just like we are right now. Yeah. And then he speaks. He shows up, he speaks peace, but then he breathes. Jesus breathes on the disciples and gives them the Holy Spirit. And if you know anything about Hebrew culture, breath represents life. And man, I have full faith that the relationships, the marriages, the ideas that people thought were dead, they could never see come back to life. Like, I know I was called to write a book, but I'm not a good writer. Like, I'm not fit for that. I don't have enough knowledge. That relationship that, man, there's so much conflict. There's so many issues. Like, the past is getting in the way. Man, Jesus wants to show up in the midst of our quarantine and give us a peace and breathe on those things that were dead and see them come back to life. Yeah. But I love Jesus because he didn't just like breathe on them and like, all right, go do the thing. Like, gives them the Holy Spirit. Yeah. The Holy Spirit, that's our homie during quarantine. Like, he's going to give us knowledge. He's going to give us new ideas. He's going to give us purpose. Yeah. So what's crazy is I love the Holy Spirit because it's not like just because you're younger, you have a junior Holy Spirit. Yeah, correct. And because you're older, you got a Holy Spirit with a beard. Like, no, whatever you are, young or old, wherever you come from, job, no job, college, graduated from college, like, Holy Spirit wants to give you a purpose and a peace during this quarantine. Because I think if we're honest, bro, in a moment, the things that we were putting our peace in, payment, position, college, and then the things we were putting our purpose in, same thing, job, payment, was taken. In a moment. Yeah. Dude, our purpose and our peace isn't found in a position. It's not found in a payment. Like, my bank account can't be the gauge of my joy. Sure, yeah. Jesus has to be the gauge of my joy. Yeah. Jesus has to be my purpose and my peace. Yeah. Because it's not Jesus. We just saw it. Quarantine, bro. Quarantine took it all. Yeah. Those things aren't stable. They ain't consistent. I mean, it's just how fickle it is, man. And it really like revealed things in my heart because it's like, in a moment, these things that I was putting so much of my life into, like so much of my trust, my mental capacity, my peace, in a moment, taken. Yeah. What's my foundation? Jesus. What's my purpose? Yeah. Like, has to be the Lord. Yeah. And I've just been every morning, like I said, just been trying to own my morning. I sleep in sometimes. I'm not perfect. I go to bed late sometimes. When I can wake up, I've been listening to Maverick City Volume 4. They just dropped a whole album. That's incredible. But there's a specific song that's just been on repeat. And it's called Palm of Your Hand. And Palm of Your Hand by, I think it's Harvest. that song just proclaims over and over and over again. No matter the circumstance, no matter how much money's in my bank account,
Yeah.
no matter the closed or open doors of restaurants and government buildings, Jesus says in John, there's nothing
Yeah.
that can take you out of the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
That's my rest, bro. Like during this time of quarantine, I've had more time to seek God than I ever have.
Yeah.
And if we would just tune in and just
Yeah.
listen, like get in the word, just to get in the word, listen to a podcast, worship for no reason, take a walk and pray. God wants to speak revolutionary things.
Yeah.
Book ideas, clothing design ideas,
Yeah.
like answers to problems you've had for a long time in a moment.
In a moment. Yeah. Dude, that's nuts. And I guess part of this is, I guess part of it is just like you said, like making sure that if we do genuinely believe that, right, we make this a priority, you know, because it's not just about saying, I believe it. There's a meeting the faith with the works of saying, hey, because I believe that this is the center of my life, I'm going to make time for this. I'm going to carve out time for this. And maybe even like you said before, the understanding that if you do that, it will determine the rest of your day. And not even day, I would say it'll determine the rest of quarantine for you. For a lot of us, I think our quarantine will be determined by the time we spent with God during the quarantine. And some of us are going to walk out of the season super excited about all that we received from God during this. And some of us, you know, the Bible's clear. Some of us might just not, you know, we might miss it just because we didn't invest. But I think it's good to hear the reminder of like, even 30 days in, we likely have another 30 days in this. So, hey, let's start today. Let's do this today. Let's find out today, and let's let it bleed into the rest of this quarantine.
Bro, let me just say this for anyone watching. You are not too far gone.
Yeah.
We're on a Zoom call talking about Jesus. We're in the same boat, y'all.
Same boat. Same boat. Yep.
Just because we're 30 days in doesn't mean you can't start right now.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like a competition. This isn't a race. Like the playing field's equal.
Yeah.
And if you can start scheduling your time, asking God to give you ideas, give you things to do, like reflecting internally, reading the word, it starts now. Like, and you can, I would say this, God's so good for the time that you didn't invest the past 30 days, guarantee you that my God's a restorer and the God of abundance. And in like just doing it right now, God's so good. He can take the 30 days you didn't use, multiply it, and give you more the next 30 days from your obedience and your diligence to get in the word.
Yeah.
Love people. Hey, y'all, we might be in our house. You have a phone. There are people who need encouraging text messages.
Yeah.
Like your neighbors, they're like right there.
Correct.
Text them, call them, do something good, and watch how Jesus can use you to change a community around you, regardless of your age or your position. Like starts now.
Bro.
And here's the shame, man. We have choice. We have free will. And it's a bummer because I think so many people still are using this time and just wasting it.
Yeah.
Like, man, so much good can come to us.
Yeah.
Like healing.
Yeah.
True joy. Like new habits, new ideas. And we just got to choose it. Like, I hate saying this. Joy, it's a fruit of the Spirit, and it comes by abiding in the Lord. It's a choice sometimes. You got to choose joy.
Yeah.
Because the alternative, the worst.
The absolute worst.
The absolute worst.
Bro.
Oh no, I got to grab. Think about your quarantine snack. I'm going to grab my favorite quarantine snack. I'm going to share with them.
Bro, grab your snack, and then we'll end the recording session for this. I can't believe you're grabbing a snack during. That's bold. That's just bold. This is like the time where I'm going to just advise anyone watching to go grab a quarantine snack and be blessed. Dude, I have the same ones in my fridge.
Bro, if you ain't eating cuties during quarantine, you missing out.
Bro.
This is the best quarantine snack. Can guarantee 100%.
And it's healthy.
And it's healthy.
Nate, I'm going to end this recording, and then you and I are going to hang out for a bit. But, dude, thank you for speaking into our youth and young adult ministries and just spreading just wisdom, even for someone who's so young, for just speaking so much wisdom into it. And thankful for your friendship, and I'm glad that we got to do this and you carved out some time for me. And hopefully we're done with quarantine sooner than later.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, if you're looking for anything to read during quarantine, I can't recommend this book enough.
Yeah.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. If you can't afford it, buy me on Instagram. I'll buy it for you.
Wow.
This book changed my life.
What a minute.
I honestly think going into quarantine, because of the knowledge that I gained from that book, really helped me stay sane and healthy during all this.
Yeah.
So
Great
Ruthless
book, bro.
Elimination of Hurry, John Mark Gomer. Stellar.
Nate, thank you. I'm going to end the recording and then we'll talk. Appreciate you, bro. Love you.
Love you guys.
Hey, everyone. We have our good friends, Matt and Amanda. We got to speak with them for a little bit, and they're going to share a little bit about their story and their life and how they're handling quarantine. We think most of you guys do know who Matt and Amanda are, but if you don't, they're some of our oldest friends, I believe, in terms of our adult friends. They were both super involved in the beginning. Before it was even Chapter, it was Gorilla, like way before. And then Matt and I met over Instagram, like every good friendship begins. I think I slid into the DMs.
Wow.
I think, yeah, it's bold. I don't know where the boldness came from, which was great. And then you and Amanda became friends in an interesting way.
Over Facebook. Before.
Oh my gosh, we both all met online.
We all, yeah,
We
we
had
all met
mutual
online.
friends in high school on
Yes.
Facebook and would write to each other. And I recently found a letter from Amanda who she mailed it to my house in high school and just
We
right.
were living in quarantine before quarantine.
Just like nerdy and adorable. I love it.
We redid our office, and I was trying my best to not
He
make
was
it
almost
obvious.
ripping everything up, and I was like, "Don't rip that!"
Yeah,
That's really
I was.
I throw everything away.
I read a little bit of it. I read a little bit of it. It's fine. It's cool. Whatever. But Matt,
Well, but
thank you for taking this time to talk with us and encourage us around this time and season. So first things first, how's life been for you guys in terms of work? Are you guys still working from home? What's it look like?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate you guys and the friendship that we have, and just the fact that we're both in ministry in our respective ways is just nice to kind of have friends in that same situation.
Yeah.
Work-wise is like so I work at, I don't know if I'm allowed to say where I work at, but my company sent us home, but we're still getting paid. So that's been really nice, because that way we get to just spend a little bit more time together. Especially, I think it was like the first week of April they sent everyone home. So, right? No, longer, maybe longer.
I think it was like last week of March, beginning of April. Whenever.
It's been like 4 weeks. But it's been nice because we've been able to spend a lot more time together, while not having to worry necessarily too much about finances.
Yeah. We've been super blessed.
Yeah.
I'm a realtor, so I occasionally will show a vacant home with a mask on and gloves, but no one's really looking to move right now, so it's been slow. But yeah, it's been super nice to just like be home. We're expecting a baby, so it's kind of like we've just been spending time together and enjoying like the season of just me and Matt before it gets crazy.
Yeah. But for anyone looking for a home, can we plug?
I'm your
It's a
girl.
plug. That's it.
The link is in the bio later.
Wait,
Yeah.
when do you guys do?
I am due August 5th.
Holy smokes, that is so
I know, I can't
close.
believe it's already.
That is crazy.
I mean, I'm 6 months. Like that went by so fast.
Yeah. We can finally see the baby like move, like when you're looking at her belly, and it's wild.
Really cute.
It's wild.
He moves a lot.
Looks like a little alien. I don't know. Threw me off.
It's really freaky. Like what is inside me? But it's awesome. We're
How's it
excited.
like being pregnant during quarantine? We talked a little bit on Instagram, and I was laughing at all your responses. But if you can just share what it's like for the world.
I mean, for the most part, I have like a lot of peace that it won't be this way in August. But yeah, it's just weird because this is obviously our first baby. So we were really excited to be with friends and like even just seeing people like see your belly grow and like all the baby shower and all that fun stuff. So that kind of is the biggest like just disappointment, I guess, in this season because it's just me and Matt. So no one really is getting to celebrate that with us or be there with us. And everyone's obviously super encouraging and always asks for pictures and stuff, but it just would have been nicer to have like that community that we're used to having. But I'm staying positive, and I have so many friends who like have given birth already or are giving birth in this quarantine, and they're like amazing. So I'm glad that that's not me. But yeah, we're all graced for our own seasons, you know.
Yeah.
And then I know you guys we talked a little bit about some of your quarantine hobbies. There's two specifically that I'm interested in. I've heard that a lot of baking is happening. And then if Amanda wants to brag on what she did to Matt's hair, this is the time to flex for all the ladies out there.
Okay, so first of all, I gave Matt a fade. This is not the best because it's been a few days, but it looks pretty good.
Like I'm very particular about fades, skin tight to the two on top.
Right.
I
didn't do skin tight, but maybe next time.
I pulled up a PDF and I showed Amanda, like, this is when you go close shave, open shave, like a half, 1.5, you know? So we were there. It was a journey that we took together.
Right. We also decided to do it at like 11 p.m.
It was 11 p.m. It was not the greatest lighting to work
but I
with,
still
but
did it.
It worked out well.
Yeah. I'll be charging after quarantine if anyone's interested.
But in terms of the baking, I'm on the receiving end of all the baking that Amanda's doing, and I also love it.
Yeah. I mean, I've always baked, but now you're kind of just like home. Like, what else are you going to do, you know? I actually found this recipe for Levain cookies, so I'm going to try to make them. I guess they're like, it's a dupe. It's not their actual recipe, but I'm going to try to make it. So I will drop some off if they turn out.
Have you been affected by the yeast shortage?
I was about to ask that.
No, I have so much yeast. I mean, I have like an actual jar. Like, I don't do the packets, and I have the jar like in my fridge. And so you usually only use like a tablespoon. So I feel like.
Because we had it before the quarantine.
Yeah,
so like
because I bake a lot, I always have things in large quantities. Didn't have baking powder for a while, but we're back on track. So
my mom gave Diana yeast, but before that, we were hunting yeast down the same way you would go to find narcotics. Where like you're texting people like, hey, where can we meet? How much? Like, don't tell anyone.
And I was like, I just want yeast. Why can't
I feel like we're running low on toilet paper.
We have some.
Today.
Okay.
Our toilet's right next to the sink, so sometimes just
stop. Everyone's toilet is next.
We can edit that out, right? We can edit that out.
Well, and then Matt, I saw two things for you. I saw that you are investing some time in Warzone, so definitely want to hear. You can smack talk some of the guys. Oh, you'll know what Warzone is in a few moments. And then, can you explain the push-up thing I saw you doing? Because you posted something like a push-up challenge, and it made me want to do push-ups. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I was super encouraged by seeing the post.
Yeah. So first thing, like the Warzone, just Call of Duty. I'm sure most people listening, guys specifically, will understand. Like even yesterday, like Amanda was on a church call, and I was in the living room just like yelling, and she came out afterwards. She was like, I wasn't even able to say anything because you were just in the background yelling.
I had to be muted the entire time because everyone would hear him if I unmuted.
Communication is key, not only in real life but online.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we have a lot of friends at our church, and a lot of the leaders that we oversee. I kind of wanted to challenge the guys in terms of staying still physically fit. And so what we're doing is every Thursday night now we're getting on a call and we're seeing who can do the most push-ups in a minute. So I did 24 last week, which is very, very embarrassing. But this Thursday, I am prepping myself to beat that goal. And so it's just a way of still staying in a close-knit community and challenging each other and having fun while, still distancing ourselves.
Are you training for this? Are you training for the Thursday call? Be honest.
No.
I haven't seen him do a single push-up.
I've had a few people reach out to me like, yo, are you doing it? Are you doing it? I'm like, look, I'll be there Thursday. That's all you need to know. Like, don't worry about it.
If it's any consolation, I got sucked into one of those like scammy free trainer things at our gym before quarantine. And the guy was like, all right, let's just do some push-ups. And I'm not going to listen.
We are just lazy and we're like, no, don't pick us.
I'm not going to say how many push-ups I did. It was not 24.
Yeah,
but the guy looked at me. The guy looked at me after and goes, you are, by my calculations, extremely obese and extremely out of shape. And I was like, awesome. Great sales strategy to get me back in there. Then he hit me with, do you make the decisions in your household or do you have to ask your wife? And I was like, I'm going to ask my wife.
You said, I'm leaving this gym.
I haven't gone since. That was
Yes, we did. We saw him. It was really awkward.
Oh, man.
You guys
It was really hard.
It's true.
You guys alluded to it before and you just shared about it. And this part I really want to hear. How have you guys been like maintaining your church community in terms of sticking close and being together while obviously not being able to meet in this season? I don't know if everyone knows, but you guys run the young adults at Hillsong Montclair. So you guys definitely are in a position where you have a lot of young adults who can't come together. So how have you been keeping it healthy and how have you been keeping it so people are still feeling like they're in community even though they can't be in community?
Yeah, I think we're really blessed with the church we're a part of. Creatively speaking, I feel like we really set a good pace in terms of trying to engage and interact with our audience even from home. So we oversee the Montclair campus for the young adults, but we are also very in touch with East Coast as a general. So a lot of what's being put out on social media, things like that, is we're partnering with East Coast as a whole to kind of push. And so that's a lot of what you see day to day on social media, things like that. That's kind of the collective, but we also want to focus specifically on, our campus as well and make sure that we're really pouring into our people. So whether that's, doing the push-up challenge with some of the guys or, now we're doing twice a week where we're doing little devotionals together with some of our leaders and opening it up to other people, where you're still being engaged, you're still interacting, and really just trying to have fun conversations as much as possible. So whether I'm going on a walk with my dog and, using that time to touch base with one of our leaders or, just sending out a funny meme to them, just continuing to engage them. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think it's been cool because like the best thing we do at Hillsong, I think, is connect groups. And our connect groups are still meeting across Jersey in homes, which is really awesome. So we do like our Zoom connect group once a week. And it's been really cool because obviously we're all really busy, or we were before quarantine. And so a lot of times, like, we would have people not show up to connect because they're like, I have work, I have class, and now there's like, that doesn't exist anymore. So we have people like join our Zoom call who haven't been able to be part of Connect or who used to like go to school during the year, so, or at a different state or something, so they weren't able to be a part of it. And so it's been really cool to have like everyone together on Zoom. And yeah, I mean, I think it's like, what a better time to be in quarantine than like this age of internet and social media, it's been like not super challenging, I think, to be in touch with people and to know what they're doing and how they're doing. And it just takes a little bit more intentionality, but it's been like so good and kind of a lesson for us to learn, like, okay, we are going to take this even after quarantine. Like, we're still going to FaceTime people more and like still be more in tune with people throughout the week instead of just relying on it on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow, yeah, that's really good. I think a big part of it in a lot of the conversations during this time, I feel like I've been around the idea of like so many things we're doing as a whole church community around the world where everyone's jumping to online. And it feels like going back to normal after all of this, we can't just stop those things.
Yeah.
It feels like we're reaching more people. Like you said, Amanda, like the people who just couldn't make it are now making everything because we've opened up the doors for people to come in and stuff like that. What parts of this quarantine church thing do you think are going to be permanent to what you guys do as a church and as a ministry once we go back to normal and we can meet in person?
It's hard. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to the fact that like the phrase like, oh, we're going back to normal after this. It's like, to me, it's like we're not going back to like a normal because everything is going to be different. Like I think even having like these meetings where, you know, you guys from another church, we're from another church, like still being able to interact with other churches or other ministries or even with your own people. I know a lot of times like the ministry that we oversee, like people are coming from New York home, you know, from work, and sometimes they can't make it to the meetings where we might not have to have, you know, meetings in person as much if we balance it out with like virtual meetings, or it's a little bit easier for someone to, you know, still make it without having to strain too much of their day away.
Yeah, and I hope like just what Matt was saying before, like the collaboration, like definitely being a part of a global church is crazy because it's so many people that you get to know. And even just like being in New York and New Jersey, which they're so close to us and we love them, we just haven't really been able to have like as tight relationships with them as we do now. Like I literally talk to them all the time because of just planning and like coordinating everything. And so I think hopefully that like unity between, you know, the church instead of just our own church.
Yeah.
I hope that like transcends the quarantine and kind of continues to make us stronger and like remember what the main thing is and why we do church.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then before we jump into like the final question of the night, I just have to ask this because it was we talk about it all the time and we've been laughing about it a little bit. There was a podcast I was listening to and the guy was saying how after every big thing happens, it sort of like changes your life in a sense. So the example he used was any grandparents who lived through the Great Depression.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them don't trust banks anymore, so they still keep their money hidden under their bed or something like that. So he was saying like, what are things that are going to mark our generation that lived through this? And the way they meant it, I think, was in a negative sense. So they were joking like, you won't high five anyone, or we're going to have PTSD about meeting in big groups again. But I guess the question I want to ask is, what are positive things that you think all of us who lived through this season are going to leave quarantine and are going to be changed and marked by?
It's a good question.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I hope changes is just like a better awareness of health. And like even just in our workplaces, like I know it's really hard when you're sick and you still have to go to work because of sick days and you're trying to save your vacation days or whatever. And I kind of just hope that, you know, as a whole, our generation can make that difference where like it's important to stay home and rest when you're sick instead of just like be in this hustle. So maybe like that's the main thing is we can just learn that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to be still. You don't need to be rushing through everything. You don't need to be working 24/7 because it's just not healthy long term.
Yeah. This could get a little bit controversial.
Don't get controversial.
No, not too much. But I just feel like so many people were so like, I've known people at work where they were like, oh, I can't take a day off, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, because it's like they kind of want to please the company, or they don't want to like look bad. And then like this happens and so many companies don't really show any sort of care to the employee. Where I kind of hope we get into this place where I feel like as a society, we're very money oriented and work driven. I hope at least for us, I know that we're really like this time has been great to really, you know, bring us back to the roots of being family oriented and putting family first, God first. And so that's the thing that, you know, taking out of this is I'm never going to, you know, I guess give up my family, give up my, you know, my faith to, you know, focus on work. There was a specific word that I was looking for, and I couldn't remember the word. But just that idea of staying family oriented and valuing the right things, and I guess not giving yourself up for.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I feel like the quarantine kind of took everything from you, and then like what you're left with is like your family, and it's not your job, it's not your security, it's not your health. Like it's literally just your family and the people that you're around. And I think that's been like awesome to have your eyes open to like what's really important in life and what you actually need to survive.
Yeah.
To reprioritize a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just want to hug people. Like, that's like my biggest desire is just like I wake up and I go, I can't wait until we can just high five and hug, and it's like there's no second thought or like hesitation.
Yeah. Well, I have clammy hands. I've had clammy hands my whole life. So if there's another thing that I hope that we take out of this is that we stop handshakes.
It's such an American thing. Why don't we just do the kiss on the cheek?
Yeah, I'm okay with a kiss on the cheek. My cheeks are never clammy. It's just, but my hands, I don't know. I'm okay with not having handshakes anymore.
Wow. I mean, I like the double kiss or the sing. I've had to get used to the double kiss because of the Portuguese side of it.
I'm a single kiss girl.
The single kiss, yeah, the one kiss and go.
Confuse each other.
For sure.
His family started double kissing. I started single kissing. It gets really awkward.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
You don't want to be the double kisser to a single kisser because it really throws them off when you go around.
I really don't want to be a triple kisser, that's for sure.
No. That is wow. And so just to close out, I mean, thanks for just sharing about life and joking with us. But just to close out, this part of it, I guess the question that we're going to be asking everyone is, how have you guys both found joy, and how do you choose to find joy in a season that's so different and can be so difficult? Like what is the place, or where do you go to find the joy during this time?
You want me to kick off?
Sure. Well, okay. When you guys asked us this question, I immediately thought of James 1:2, which is one of my favorite verses. And I did write it down. So wow. I know, prepared. It says, "Consider it a great joy," and some versions say pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience trials of any kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full effect so that you may be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. And that's always been one of my favorite verses, because I think joy can be really confusing for people. They might think that joy is like being happy and positive 100% of the time. And while that's good, I think that that's not what joy in the kingdom of God looks like. I think it can be a little bit backwards, because experiencing great joy in trials is not like, just reading that is kind of like, how does that even make sense? And obviously, I don't think that Paul is saying, be really happy when people are suffering. I don't think that's what he's saying. I don't think he's saying to like rejoice when like everything is going wrong. But I think he's actually saying that joy doesn't have anything to do with what is going on in your life. And even, I think it just means that you're more like Christ, because Jesus, obviously he had joy. I mean, it's a fruit of the Spirit, and he was perfect, but he was actually called a man of many sorrows. And so I've always related with that. I'm an Enneagram 4. I love being in my feels. I love knowing how I'm feeling.
I'm a Libra.
You're not even a Libra.
I am October. Come on.
Anyway, I don't know what that means.
We're taking this offline.
But I think it just, when you asked that question to me before this, I kind of had to redefine, what does joy actually mean? What does it actually look like in my life? And so I kind of took two things out of that. I'm going to share them. I hope that's okay. The first thing is that I've found joy in not rushing. And I kind of said that before, but I've been really enjoying like that there's no hurry anymore, and that joy kind of just looks like being present. But even more than that, it's not rushing out of this quarantine and like being like, God, I can't wait till this is over and everything can go back to normal so that then I can be joyful. But it's actually like sitting in this and sitting in my feelings, no matter what they are. I had a really hard week last week, and joy to me then just looked like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Like trying to understand this, because that verse says that's like what produces maturity and what produces endurance. And endurance isn't a fun word. You know, it's doing 50 push-ups a minute, right? Is that possible?
Yeah.
But it's just like enduring, you know, it's not fun, but it's not like minimizing what you're going through, because all of our emotions are valid right now. We've never gone through this before. We don't know how to feel, and that's okay. But it's just like understanding that God went before us and he endured for us. So now we're empowered to endure what we're going through. And that's what we're rejoicing in. And we're like thanking God that he goes to all the dark places with us. We're not alone in this. And that he's obviously going to take us from this. And I think that's like what we're rejoicing in. And then the second thing is obviously like practical joy. And like, it's really easy to be joyful married to Matt because he's the most joyful person in the world. We have so much fun together. And like, whether we're baking or watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine or playing with our dog or laughing about my stomach moving, like whatever it can be, like there's actually joy in practical things. So I think whatever that looks like to you, you have to fight to find that for yourself and to find that peace. And really just like protecting that for you and protecting your mind and your heart. And, you know, the Bible tells us to love God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind. And so like, are we actually doing that in this season? Like, are we taking like note of what our mind is like and what our heart is like? And for me, the main thing has been like managing the content that I'm consuming. Because right now there is so much fear and panic going on. And even just like friends you follow on Instagram just constantly posting about like these numbers and like, look how many people are dying and like, look what's happening in the hospitals. And like, yes, it is awful. It's a tragedy. But for me, just knowing that like I actually can control when I'm consuming this, I can control how I'm consuming it and by who I'm consuming this. And so if you have to mute people, like do it. If you have to just not go on Instagram for a certain time, do it, because you're in charge of what you're consuming. So like listen to worship music, consume that. Like don't feel like you have to be manipulated by fear of what's going on, and like guard your heart, guard your peace. And then I feel like you'll have a lot more joy as opposed to just like taking what the world's giving you, taking what Instagram's giving you and Twitter and whatever else you're on. So those are my two things. I've been finding joy in not hurting, and I've been finding joy in like taking care of my mental health and my heart.
Yeah. I mean, I think just to follow off of that, going back to, you know, when you guys had asked us that question, it really kind of took me back a sec, because I was like, I think I've always known I've been joyful, but I never really stopped to say, hey, what really is joy?
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy to confuse joy, you know, with what you were saying, like happiness and even just like that blissful moment. But, you know, joy really isn't contingent on an experience. It's really, I think it was Spurgeon that said, I'm probably going to butcher this quote, honestly, but he said like, a rich man can't give a poor man like the joy of knowing, of being rich, you know, like a man that is foolish can't give like the joy of nonsense and ignorance to someone that isn't foolish. In the same sense, it's like Jesus gives us the love of his Father, and he says, you know, like the verse is, I have come so that you may have joy and that my joy may fill your joy. And so it's like we have a sense of joy, but he fills it in the sense of we now get to know who God is.
Yeah.
And so joy to me is really knowing who God is and my identity in Christ. And I think like I've still been like kind of working at, you know, fully understanding it. I think practically Amanda is spot on in terms of, you know, what she was saying. But I think it's because it's so simple really like what joy is to me. And like I feel like I have a tendency to overcomplicate things and try to overthink things. But joy to me is really like, do I know who Christ is in the fullness of Christ and what Christ has done? And if I do, then I can live my life like not having to worry about fear, not having to worry about all this stuff. And Paul even says, you know, in 2 Corinthians is we have joy even in this tribulation, you know. So it's not in spite of a tribulation that we have joy. It's because of a tribulation. Like in any moment we can have joy if we, you know, are connected to Christ. And so it really comes down to knowing who God is. And so even in the season, it's been one of those things where just reconnecting fully to like the Father, where, you know, especially with what Amanda was saying about the hurry, I think we have such a tendency to hurry and to try to move things along. And it always convicts me where I try to think if any time in the day, if I've had 15 minutes of not doing anything, where, you know, I wasn't on my phone, I wasn't, you know, on a screen, I wasn't talking to someone, where if I've had 15 minutes to just sit. And I think that to me is just a really big thing of not hurrying, of being okay with the pace, with being okay with God's timing, and just understanding like if we're connected to Christ, like no matter the situation, it's not like our joy isn't contingent on, you know, us being healthy. Our joy isn't contingent on my job. It's contingent on knowing who Christ is and that we're taken care of.
Yeah, it's really, I think, like it has to be like a personal revelation to you from heaven. I don't think it's anything that like, it's not like a worldly wisdom. It really has to come from God, because like when we read about heaven, it's literally a celebration. Like it says that there's parties when people come to know Christ. And so I think our life should be a party. And I think Matt and I try to do that as much as possible, and to like celebrate everything and everyone, because, you know, it's really heaven come to earth. Like that's what we're called to do. And we have this like great joy that is salvation. And so no matter what's happening in the world, and that's not us being like foolish to what people are going through, or like closing our eyes to what the world is enduring. Like it is a broken world, and death is real and sin is real, but we get to still have this joy of the Lord, you know. His joy is our strength, and that's where like our root is.
It's a paradox, like being able to be joyful and still be sorrowful with the situation at hand. It's even like when Moses is, you know, he brings Israel out of Egypt and they're in front of the Red Sea, and he's like, what do I do? And God is just like, be still and know that I am God. And then the next verse is like, well, what are you waiting for? Like, extend your staff, go ahead, move forward. And so it's like God is saying, be still and move forward. And I feel like that's so much of the Christian life, is being able to be joyful and still understand sorrow and still be with people in mourning. And so it's just understanding that, you know, just because you're joyful doesn't mean you're just happy all the time, right? Like I feel like I have that tendency to think like, oh, I'm not happy, like I'm not filled with joy. But it's again going back to like I can feel emotions, but I can also at the end of it like, no, like my joy comes from the Lord. It's like that psalm where David is complaining the whole time, and then like in the middle of the psalm he's like, oh, but my joy comes from the Lord. And I'm just like,
so every psalm. David was definitely an Enneagram 4. Let's be
honest.
honest.
Oh my God. I think you won.
But just like
you can look it up.
Just to like, I guess, wrap it up at the next verse in that James chat. I mean, James is amazing. Just read it. But at the next part of that verse, he actually says that like, and for those who don't have wisdom, like ask generously, because God will generously give it to you, because that's who he is. And so I think like if you don't have joy, or you don't have what we're talking about, like just ask God, because he is a generous father and he's going to give it to you. So like whether that's wisdom in like how to talk to people, wisdom in how to navigate this, wisdom in how to like be joyful around your family that you're in quarantine with 24/7. Like I'm so glad we're married and not at home, because I would kill my family by now. But like for all of our students who are in that situation, you know, like just ask God for wisdom and ask God for joy and ask God for peace. That's like the main thing, is to just be in prayer, talk to God, listen to worship, read your Bible, journal, like just take the 15 minutes, whatever it is of your day, to like ask him for what you need and just have faith that he's going to give it to you, because he is.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. I'm blessed. I feel like I'm going to give my life to the Lord right now. If you guys want to lead me in a prayer, I'll receive him again. Guys, thank you.
That question really challenged us and convicted us to think about it. So
Yeah, we were in bed the last 2 nights like, all right, what really is joy?
we actually were. We were like, what? Do we have joy? Like, what
No,
is
we
it?
definitely have joy. Come on.
Yeah, but it just made me like rethink everything. I was like, this is so crazy.
It's like when someone asks you, like, what is a color? You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
It's not something you consciously think about like every
yeah.
single day, and it's like you can feel it, but it's not something you have to like try to do. Like, you know what I mean? When it's rooted in the Lord, like you carry that with you, so it's not something that you consciously have to channel all the time and put your energy into. So I feel like to put it into words is so difficult, and you guys did it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we hope that was a lesson.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to end this recording for now, and then we're just going to talk for 5 more minutes because we're selfish and want you guys without everyone else. So, bye technically. Bye. Ayo.
We hope you guys had so much fun watching them.
Hope you enjoyed it. We lied. They're not 20-ish each. They all ran over. So
Yeah,
hopefully you're
sorry.
still here. But we'd love to join you guys on Instagram Live after this and interview you guys again like we did last month. Holy smokes.
Yeah, Instagram after party.
After party. Be ready for questions. Join the talk. It's going to be great. We love you guys.
Love you.